Hello, movie lovers. Welcome to the MTE Movie Podcast, episode number 2. I'm Jacob Bartley, and this is the movie podcast from Movie Talk Express. You can find our blog at movietalkexpress.wordpress.com. I'm here with my co-host, co-writer, co-founder of Movie Talk Express, the movie news guru, Gio. How you doing today, man?
Doing good, as Tony Stark would say. Oh, it's so good to be back.
It's nice to see you, man. I was gone for a week.
Yeah, where'd you go?
I was in Yosemite for the past 6 days, and it was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. I just want to say a few things. I listened to our first episode about 3 or 4 times, and I know we both have some constructive criticism for ourselves.
I'm just terrible.
No, we're still learning. We're still beginners, like I said at the end of our first podcast. We are still learning, and we would hope that you guys will be patient with us and grow with us as we continue to learn. I noticed we had a lot of ums and buts and likes, and that's understandable. It's part of natural conversation in modern society, but we're still willing to improve and work on it. So
yeah, all in due time, guys. All in due time.
Exactly. So this is our second episode, and today we have an all Marvel Studios discussion. And we're going to start off with a segment discussing Age of Ultron. I know we're pretty late for this, but it's a movie that is very controversial, and we both have strong feelings towards it. And after our initial discussion on Age of Ultron, we're going to get into a spoilers discussion, which if somebody's listening who hasn't seen the movie, which I don't know why you'd be interested if you haven't seen it yet.
It's been over a month now.
Yeah.
So
but
no
still,
excuses.
Fair warning, once we start to get into that spoiler discussion part, we'll let you guys know. And then we'll go into some of the MCU going forward, the Marvel slate after Age of Ultron, which will start with Ant-Man. And then after that, we'll go over a few movie topics from the news from this past week, as Gio will present me with a few questions. So without anything further ado, you have anything else to say, Gio, before we get started? Yeah, too bad we don't have the actual theme playing. That would be awesome. Well, anyways, let me just start by saying, if you don't know from our first episode, I'm a huge fan of Marvel Studios and what they've been doing, and the whole superhero genre in general. I'm a huge fan of, and I was very much looking forward to Avengers: Age of Ultron. It was my most anticipated movie of the year, and as of now, it's probably my second favorite movie of the year, behind Ex Machina, and I loved it. The first time I saw it, I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed and let down. And then after thinking about it for a few days, seeing it a few more times, reevaluating it in my head, I realized it's a really good movie. It's a great movie, but people just need to realize it's not what you expect, and it's kind of maybe the marketing's fault for portraying the movie for something really dark when it's really not a dark movie. It has dark elements, but it's pretty much an action comedy, I would say. And I don't think people were expecting that.
Yeah, just real quickly, I want to say your expectations and excitement was at an all-time high going into Avengers: Age of Ultron. Mine was pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would say.
And how we came out of that, you were not as excited or thrilled that you watched, Age of Ultron, whereas I was beyond, happy, excited. I was like, wow, this movie was so awesome, so amazing. Josh Whedon does it again. So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, because I was the one who was geeking out and like, oh, I can't wait to see it. And then I was like kind of quiet coming out of the movie, but it was primarily due to my expectations, but it wasn't necessarily high or low. It was just I had different expectations. Like I was expecting Ultron to be a lot more menacing, and he was menacing to a certain extent, but not like I was imagining. I was imagining like a Darth Vader dark type, He was more animated.
Yeah, and that happens often these days. People's expectations, they go a little more above what they should be, and that affects how they receive the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big problem these days, especially with trailers, multiple trailers, and studios are hyping up movies so much these days. Like they release teasers and posters, and they want people to get excited, and you do, and then you go in so hyped, and then maybe that movie doesn't reach your expectations, or maybe it exceeds it. It's different for every movie. So we kind of went over our initial thoughts. Since we first saw the movie, we kind of flip-flopped on our stance on it. I really loved it, and you liked it, but it's not as great as you initially thought it was, correct?
Yeah, and it's only natural after you've seen the movie. Well, I've seen the movie 4 times. You've seen the movie
5 times.
Wow.
In theaters. No shame. But yeah, and I admit I noticed new flaws, but I noticed good things as well. So,
it still holds up. The movie still holds up.
I gave it a 9 on my review, and I stand with that score. It's a great movie.
We're not too far apart. I'm at 8.75.
Yeah, so even though we have different opinions, we still both very much enjoyed the movie. So let's get into like a couple specifics of what we liked. I'll start it off. I mean, you can't deny that. So in the first Avengers, that cast, when they all meet each other and then when they get together, they have this chemistry that's undeniable. They have you feel it on screen, and they're cracking jokes with each other, they're bickering back and forth, and you just get more of that in Age of Ultron. I love that, the chemistry of the actors. And I feel like the action was taken to another level in this movie. So that end scene in Avengers, the first Avengers, when they fight the aliens, right? That's awesome. I go back and watch that scene over and over again just when I watch Avengers, and I feel like there was like 4 or 5 of those epic scenes in Avengers Age of Ultron. And there's one to start the movie, there's a couple in the middle of the movie, and then the last battle scene is, although it's kind of similar to the last battle scene in the first Avengers, I feel like it took it to a whole nother level. And I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but that scene where it slows down and the team is fighting, that was honestly the best fight scene in any Marvel movie ever, in my opinion. And although, another positive for me, although I was somewhat disappointed in Ultron, after going back and watching it a few more times and knowing what type of character he is, I really liked him. I like feel for Ultron, he's a guy in pain, and he really has a human side, and he has a good sense of humor. So those are like my main positives. What were yours positives?
All right. So, first off, I have to give credit to Joss Whedon. He delivered again, and the expectations for this film were unfairly high.
Yeah.
So high. So I thought he delivered another Avengers worthy film. What do you call it? Successor?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So props to him. Take a break. Don't even think about Marvel or anything like that. I know they really damaged you in more ways than none. Ultron. He is, in my opinion, a step up from past Marvel villains. Obviously, Loki's great. The Winter Soldier, he was an antagonist, an anti-hero, but I really liked how he was, all walk, little talk. Ultron, he definitely was a step up. He was menacing, the way he talked, which credit to James Spader, right guy to voice Ultron. So Ultron was good. The action sequences, like you mentioned, the end. All I could think about is that 360 rotation, slow motion, all the Avengers.
Man,
just
that was so awesome.
oh yeah, you see Vision in the air, Thor with his lightning, Hulk, smashing. I think he was chewing on a bot too. I was like, what?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, some action sequences. Thor and Captain America, those two really work great as a tandem.
Out on the battlefield?
Oh yeah, that hammer and that shield is not something to fuck with. Sorry, excuse my language. I liked Iron Man and War Machine flying together. It was cool to see them. Last time we saw them was Iron Man 2, that very end scene.
Did Rhodey suit up in Iron Man 3?
No.
He didn't,
well,
huh?
Not at the end, no.
Yeah. Well, we haven't seen them like in action fighting together since Iron Man 2, really.
Yeah, so it was nice to see those two together, buddies hanging out, bro moment. Iron Man, or should I say Hulkbuster versus Hulk. Yeah, that was a pretty intense fight scene.
Vanessa? Was that the name?
Vanessa. Yeah, Vanessa.
Was it?
Yeah, that was a pretty cool fight scene. And an editor over at Screen Rant pointed it out that what this film did great was it was aware of previous superhero films making a mistake, or not really a mistake, just an error in the film about collateral damage and people dying. If you notice, Man of Steel had that problem where people were like, how is Superman a hero when thousands, maybe millions of people died in Metropolis during that end battle? So what Age of Ultron did was they were very careful with the Hulkbuster versus Hulk scene. They, like one example, when Hulkbuster takes Hulk to that building and he scans the building and there's 0 people in the building, and so he decides to drop Hulk in there. And then at the end, when I think Vanessa,
back to that when he throws Hulk into the building scene, he also says does he still have Jarvis at that point? Oh, that might be spoilers, but anyways, he says right before he smashes into it, he says, how quickly can we buy this building? So he's even gonna buy the building that he damages.
Oh, right.
Did
wow.
you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that.
So that's another way that they're doing that.
Yeah. And then at the end when I think it's Vanessa or Friday, who's talking to
his technology, his AI and his helmet after Jarvis, it's Friday.
Oh, okay, Friday. Yeah, Friday was pointing out, oh, there's someone in the 10th level building. And he went to go get them, and then the Avengers, how they worked together to evacuate everyone off. So it was very aware of human casualties, and that's something I appreciated. It goes into the detail of filmmaking. So, and then there were some really standout performances, two that come to mind. Andy Serkis. Even though he had a small role in the film, he delivered. He was funny. He's a really underrated actor. I feel like he's only been in a handful of roles that are outside of being in motion capture suits, but when he's sort of playing these characters that don't involve CGI or motion capture, he really delivers. I think he does, and I really liked his performance. He was funny. And then Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. I thought she was a standout. She really had depth to her character, and she's someone that I want to see moving forward, especially after, spoiler, Quicksilver's death. I want to see how that affects Scarlet Witch going forward. Is she going to be as well? We saw her be sort of afraid and fragile when Hawkeye was talking to her, but she kind of came into her own.
That was a great scene because sometimes in these just real quick, sometimes in these superhero movies, when somebody first gets their powers, oh, they're just out there fighting. They're not scared at all. She was freaked out.
Right.
She was like crawling on the floor, like, oh my God, I can't believe what's going on. What do we do? Like, that's realistic, and I loved that. I love that you brought that up because that's how someone new in this world of superheroes battling would react.
Right. Especially, someone as young as her.
Yeah.
Her and her brother. Yeah. So I thought she was great. I thought Andy Serkis was great. And last thing I want to mention is the comedic dialogue between the characters.
Oh, it was awesome.
They are having so much fun. It's so evident. And just their back and forth exchange is awesome. Like, when that comes to mind right now is when Vision, he's like, yeah, that's true. He hates you the most.
Oh, yeah. That's hilarious. Vision had some great lines once he comes in the movie. We kind of blew it off the lid already. So spoilers, guys. We're gonna go into our negatives, but we're just going to kind of go ahead and say spoilers are going to be in our negatives, and going forth with any of this conversation is going to contain spoilers. We kind of already spoiled some of the movie for you guys, so our apologies, but you should have seen the movie already, and you would have if you wanted to. So I'm going to start with some of my negatives, and while I enjoyed every scene in this movie, but I felt a little problem with the pacing because there was a lot of fast-paced action scenes. Like, usually, a movie will have like, okay, the first act is like set up, not much action, and then second act there's like a big tragic action scene, and then there's a big battle at the end. This movie was action, 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 slow down. Oh, character moment time for, a slower moment for a character to show character development and stuff. And while I enjoyed that character development, it was too much of a, going back and forth, fast pace, slow it down, fast pace, slow it down. And, normally it wouldn't bother me, and it really didn't bother me that much, but I can tell, like, I've seen the movie 5 times and I've seen it with different people, and I could tell they were getting frustrated with the slower moments in the movie. And I understand Joss Whedon wanted to focus on these characters and he cares about them, and I appreciate that time he gave to them, but I feel like for more of a general audience, they want things to get going. So I feel like those slower moments threw off the pacing a little bit. And there's a little bit of convenient plot manipulation in this movie. And, usually movies do, especially superhero movies, like someone's going to get killed and then, someone comes out of nowhere and knocks the bad guy down. Well, since we're in spoiler discussion, at the end of the movie, when the team is trying to get all of these civilians off the big rock, vibranium rock, S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up out of nowhere. Well, it's Samuel L. Jackson in the helicarrier, and they show out of nowhere. And while I enjoyed them showing up, I enjoy Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, I enjoy Maria Hill, I enjoy some of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents on the ship and who they brought with them, War Machine, Rhodey. That was awesome, but it's just a little too convenient, I think. But the only reason I give that a pass is because if you remember, when they're at Hawkeye's house, Nick Fury is leaving, and he tells Tony Stark, he's like, can I borrow Maria Hill? He's like, oh, she works for you anyways. And then I think Captain America tells him, he's like, what are you gonna do? And he says something dramatic, I hope. So I was like, what does he mean? And then when he shows up at the end, it made me crack up because he was referring to how he's gonna show up out of nowhere and do something dramatic. So I kind of give that a pass because in a way they were making fun of themselves because they knew it was too convenient. And then I know I gave Ultron as one of my positives, but he's also, in a sense, one of my negatives because I wanted him to be more physically imposing. Like, okay, the only reason he's such a big threat is because he doesn't exist in a physical body. He exists in the internet, right? He exists in the air, in the system. So any body he's in, the Avengers could just destroy, and then he's into another body.
Yes.
So even his most powerful body was like the Hulk could have ripped it in half if he wanted to. So as long as the Avengers figured out a way to fry him out of the system, the internet, which they do, then there's no real threat. They just have to kill all of the robots, and there was no physical threat, I don't think.
Yeah, you're right. I was expecting Ultron's final form to be all vibranium. Is it just me, or did the trailers
he used some vibranium? I know the trailers show it like dripping off his hand, but they didn't show that in the movie.
Oh, man.
But, you know, here's the thing. He was trying to do that. Vision's body was supposed to be Ultron's final body. Vision is made of all vibranium.
Right.
So he was trying to do that. He got interrupted. And while I enjoyed the humor and I love it, it's freaking hilarious. Going back to where I seen the movie with a few different people, I could sense the crowd, like, there was a little too much humor. Like, every line was, like, trying to crack a joke, trying to be a punchline, and some of them didn't hit, but, you know, 95% of the jokes I loved. A couple of them were, like, a little forced. So those are my negatives. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with some of your negatives. Ultron never really felt like the threat we were promised. From a physical standpoint, definitely he could talk. He can get inside your head and get you irritated.
That was the best part about him, is his lines and his sense of humor.
But when you think about it, if you take away the twins from Ultron, you know, you're taking out one entire, you know, sequence in Wakanda. You know, he's easily stopped, Ultron.
Oh yeah. And
that's another thing. Every time he went into a different body, it got destroyed. His Ultron bots at the end, I mean, would you say that the Avengers had an easier time beating Ultron's bots than the Chitauri in Avengers 1?
Well, we also had those big Chitauri whales or whatever they were, you know. So, but yeah, generally, yeah, they, like I said, as long as they got Ultron out of the internet, then they won. They just had to destroy all the bodies.
Yeah,
so yeah,
I mean,
it was an easier physical threat. But if they didn't have Vision, they don't win. If they don't have Vision, they don't win.
Oh yeah, yeah. Vision was the key to
exactly
stopping, you know, Ultron. And don't get me wrong, the action sequences were very cool. You know, just seeing the Avengers do what they do.
To see them all together fighting.
Oh, not to mention that one sequence with Thor using his lightning, Iron Man using his
my goodness,
arc
I can't believe I didn't mention
thing.
that. And Vision shooting the Infinity Stone.
That was amazing.
That is like equal to the slow motion turnaround scene. Like, that scene was awesome.
That was so nerdgasm right there. Yeah.
See, we're praising Age of Ultron.
Yeah. I agree with you. I thought it was a bit too comedic. Definitely not as dark as what I would have thought and what I would have wanted.
And the way the trailers portrayed the movie as very dark.
And that's kind of how Phase 2's films have been. Marvel's Phase 2, Iron Man 3, it had a dark kind of tone to it, you know. Stark dealing with post-traumatic stress.
Mm-hmm. From the alien invasion.
Thor, the Dark World, you know, all the destruction. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. That was no light.
That was a dark movie, yeah.
And Guardians of the Galaxy, you can, I don't know how you would.
I mean, it wasn't very dark, but that was a whole nother beast. That was just its own thing, you know?
Right. Yeah. So that was that. Let's see. Baron von Strucker. Now, Captain America the Winter Soldier, the post-credit scene, teased Baron von Strucker and Hydra, right? They were not gone. It made it seem like they were going to be around for, you know, a huge part of Ultron. But what I would have wanted to see more was more of Von Strucker. I don't know too much about the character, but I know that he plays a significant role in the comics. I believe he plays a significant role in Civil War, but again, I have to look into that. I know he's not one of those one and done characters, and I just didn't like how they killed him off so easily. I would have wanted to see more of him. That's just a personal preference, but you know, you gotta make room for the twins or whoever else, you know, more interesting characters, so to speak, according to you know, the general audience who might not know Von Strucker. So that's that. And the CGI at times, it felt a little too distracting for me. The opening battle sequence, it's
a lot of CGI.
A lot of CGI. It's like the villains that the Avengers are fighting, they're just swinging away and destroying, people flying everywhere, explosions.
Well, they all have superpowers.
Right.
If you hit somebody, they're gonna fly.
Right. Yeah.
I agree, though. It was a CGI fest.
I'm just saying, like, take it back a little bit, okay? CGI is a tool, as I recently learned, for filmmaking. Just ease off a little bit, okay? Don't go all Transformers Age of Extinction on me. We love these films. The pacing, yes, I agree. And it's evident through what we've learned that the original cut for Avengers runs at 4 hours, I believe. Wow. Is that right?
I honestly don't know. I heard it was longer and that a bunch of scenes had to get cut. And actually, I heard that Whedon was pissed about that. That he had a lot more. I forget what the specific scenes were, but there was a lot more stuff to set things up, and maybe the movie would have been better with those scenes. I'm curious to see if they'll release it on the Blu-ray or something.
Right, and it just suffers because of that. Because Marvel decided we want this to be 2 hours and 15 minutes, so we can fit more showtimes into the theaters. So that was evident. The editing was a huge problem and very noticeable. And you know, you can't really blame Josh Whedon that much. That's more of the studio in general.
Yeah, so whatever company worked on the CGI. I don't mind CGI. I know a lot of people are like, oh, when a movie has too much CGI, it's a bad thing. I disagree with that. It just matters how you use it. And I do agree that there wasn't really any bad CGI in the movie other than maybe that first battle scene when like Thor's knocking guys over and he jumps down and then he's socking guys. Like that looked a little like too animated, but other than that, I didn't mind the CGI at all, really. Did you have any more negatives? No?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to get into a few more like positives, but just because they're more spoiler talk kind of in a way. I really loved how this movie pushed forward the evolution of Hawkeye and Black Widow. In the first Avengers movie, we don't really know much about them. I mean, we know a little bit more about Black Widow because she was in Iron Man 2, but still not much at all. And in this movie, they put those two characters in the forefront as far as the team has to hide out at Hawkeye's home for a while. And I actually liked that scene a lot because it showed that, you know, Hawkeye is a real person. He doesn't have superpowers. He's a regular guy. This is his job. And he even says later in the movie, like, I'm going out there. This is my job, you know? And I love that scene. It shows us, you know what that scene showed us? Okay, everybody's always asking, okay, in Captain America Winter Soldier, where's Hawkeye? In Iron Man 3, where's Hawkeye? Why isn't he helping Iron Man or whatever, you know? He's with his family. That clears that up right away.
And his wife made a good point too in the film. I'm not worried that the team doesn't need you. It's the fact that they do.
Yeah. that was a great line because, you know, I think that's alluding to the fact that all these guys have egos, I believe. You know, Iron Man, huge ego. Captain America is a humble guy. He's, you know, he's a good human being, but he has a little bit of an ego on him. You can't deny that.
Oh, I'm from the World War II era. We did things differently in my day. Y'all are...
Captain America's like, we're gonna do things my way, and if you want to not do things my way, then we're gonna do something about it. And
Thor too.
Thor has a big ego, and even Bruce Banner has an ego in a way. And Hawkeye, out of all of them, he's the one with the smallest ego, and he kind of brings everybody back down to earth. And I love that scene with his wife and his kids and stuff. And and we learn a lot about Black Widow and her past and her origins. I don't want to get too much in detail, but it was nice to learn about where she came from. And I actually have watched the Peggy Carter show. What's it called?
Agent Carter?
Agent Carter, yeah. I watched that whole show, and if you've seen that show, you learn a lot about where Black Widow came from, and it's a really cool connection once you see it in the movie as well. So that was pretty cool. And I want to ask you a question, Gio. So we see the Infinity Stone, the Mind Gem, goes into Vision's forehead. It's a part of him.
Oh, he gonna die.
It's actually like a part of his existence.
Yeah.
So where we see the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward, Thanos is collecting all the gems to connect to the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's going to eventually need that gem. So how is that all going to go down? What do you think?
Two ways. Either Thanos rips it out of Vision's head and Vision dies, or we learn that Vision does not need the gem to live.
I think that's more likely. I mean, it would be a cool way to handle two problems, which solves that and another character dying, you know, but I feel like we just got introduced to Vision. They could use him for a while, I think. And he's so powerful, like, and maybe that's a reason to get rid of him because he's too powerful. I don't know.
Yeah, so it can go either way, but I'll let you know right now, one way or another, Thanos is gonna get that stone.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that Vision doesn't need it to live, but it'll make. When he loses it, he's gonna be less powerful for sure.
Right, but I mean, he's still made of vibranium.
So. Oh yeah, so he's still very powerful. Also, so at the end, not the very end, but when they defeat Ultron, there's one bot left, right? And Vision finds it, and it's Ultron. He's talking. You can tell because when Ultron's in one of the bots, the eyes are red, and when he switches out of that bot, the eyes turn blue. So I didn't notice that the first time I watched the movie. I noticed it like the third time. So that was pretty cool. But so you know it's Ultron at the end when he's talking to him, and then they have a little conversation, you know, and then Vision starts to like blast him with the Infinity Stone, and then the camera kind of pans away out from the forest, and you kind of just see a yellow light. So I don't think Ultron's dead. I think Vision locked him away in like cyberspace prison or something. Do you agree, or what do you think about that?
Where would they go from there? I mean, I would say just kill him.
Well, here's the thing. You remember when Vision first came out, he says, I don't want to kill Ultron. He's unique. Remember he said that?
Yeah.
So that line makes me think he's not dead. Why wouldn't they just show him kill him? Like the camera pans away. I think he's still there. I think he's locked away in the internet somewhere. And Vision locked him up.
You make an interesting point, and
that's just my opinion.
It could turn out that way. Yeah. You never know. I mean, look at the Abomination ain't dead.
Exactly.
Red Skull ain't dead.
Find a way to bring these villains together somehow. I mean,
Loki ain't dead.
Who knows? Well, okay. Did you have any other things spoilerish to discuss?
No, I agree with you on the ego part. we see Thor with his shirt off.
Yeah.
Every film, he's always shirtless. They always find a way to
That's
get him
just
with
for
his
the
shirt
ladies.
off. Yeah, Thor. He knows what he's doing.
That was the whole point of the tub part. So all right.
On.
So we've seen Age of Ultron. We've had time to think about it. So, in your opinion, I'll give my list after this. But in your opinion, where does it rank among the Marvel movies thus far?
Okay, so
Do you have a whole list prepared, or do you just
I have a whole list prepared.
Okay, yeah. Let's quickly go over our list, like of ranking the Marvel movie films, including Age of Ultron.
Okay, this goes from best to worst, and the top 3
could be interchangeable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. With that in mind, from best to worst, I have Avengers, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Avengers: Age of Ultron,
Wow,
Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3.
Wow, you just actually blew my mind because I was not expecting that list, Age of Ultron to be that high for you. That's really weird because I feel like I liked the movie more than you.
Right.
And after you hear my list, it's not gonna seem that way. But like you said, you can ask me tomorrow, this whole list could change. Like the top 5 can move around a lot.
Right.
You know? So I got Avengers, the first Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Iron Man 1, Avengers: Age of Ultron, the first Thor, The Incredible Hulk, Captain America: The First Avenger, Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2. That's how I got it.
Okay.
So I love Age of Ultron. I freaking love it. But Iron Man was, it's such a great movie. It still holds up if you go back and watch it. Cap 2, man, that's a beast of a film. And I love Guardians of the Galaxy. You know how much I love it.
Right.
Honestly, I have a hard time debating with myself whether Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy is the best Marvel movie. And it's hard. But I ultimately always go back to Avengers. Right. So, still sticking with the MCU, just a little brief discussion. Where do you think the MCU is headed going forward? We know the slate coming up. We got Ant-Man in July, this upcoming month. And then we have Captain America: Civil War in May of 2016, and we know the movies coming after that. So starting with Ant-Man leading into Civil War, where do you think the MCU's headed generally?
So starting with Ant-Man, it's going to close out phase 2. It will introduce yet another character, Ant-Man. And we already know that Paul Rudd as Scott Lang will be in Civil War.
Yeah.
There's already set photos of that. I think, and especially with this new rumor that I just wrote up on the blog post, we're going to get references to Spider-Man. I think it's going to happen.
Oh, I believe so too.
Right. And it's going to set up Civil War a little bit more because that's the next film that's coming up. And we see a little bit, I think, in Ant-Man, especially in the trailers, when you see Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll, trying to sell the Yellow Jacket weapon suit to several other companies, rich people, investors who aren't as responsible with this kind of power as, say, people like, Tony Stark or Captain America. And I think the climax of Ant-Man with Yellow Jacket and all the destruction is going to raise some flags about why is there this kind of power being in the hands of these kind of people. And that's how I think Ant-Man's going to set up Civil War. And so and then we're gonna get Civil War, and who knows how that film's gonna turn out, you know, considering how many characters are in that film.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as Ant-Man. It's funny because before Age of Ultron came out, everybody was like, okay, Age of Ultron's going to lead into Civil War, you know, and then Ant-Man will just be like, not a standalone movie because obviously it's in the MCU, but just a little movie that had very small implications on the MCU, no pun intended. But I do agree we're going to get Spider-Man references, and I also agree that Ant-Man's going to set up Civil War. It's a perfect way to do it because it's the next movie leading into it, and it makes Ant-Man an essential film. You can't just skip over Ant-Man. Like, a lot of people, let's face it, a lot of people aren't, like, a lot of casual fans that have seen Age of Ultron and are going to see Civil War are not going to see Ant-Man. It's just going to happen. But if they hear that, oh, you have to see Ant-Man, it sets up Civil War, maybe there's a Spider-Man tease, maybe there's a Spider-Man after credit scene, you never know, then that's going to get more people excited about Ant-Man.
Right.
So I think we will see that set up. And so after Ant-Man, we get Civil War, and the rumor is that, so at the end of Age of Ultron, we see that new Avengers team, right? So you got Cap, Black Widow as the leaders. Then you have War Machine, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and Vision. So rumor is that at the beginning of Civil War, there's going to be a scene where Cap's leading his new Avengers team, and I heard Ant-Man's going to be part of that team. And there's going to be some type of, I do agree that the end of Ant-Man is going to have implications, like as far as the destruction that's done, but also I think there will be like another type of disaster to where, like, okay, we had the battle on Age of Ultron, we had the end battle at Ant-Man, and now we have this other thing happen in Civil War. Now the government's fed up. All right, Tony Stark, we got to do something about this, you know? And we already know how strongly Tony Stark wants to take control of things and prevent people from getting hurt and people from dying. He feels like he's responsible for all of this. So, and they've made it really believable that he would turn and not become bad, but have a strong enough will to go against anyone that stands in his way, no matter what, if it's Captain America or the Avengers or anyone. So that sets up Civil War very, very nicely. And so after Civil War, so as far as we know, Hulk and Thor aren't going to be present during Civil War, correct?
As far as we know, they're not. Now, there's a chance with Hulk because General Thunderbolt
Ross is going to be in it.
Yeah.
I could see that, or I could see maybe he's looking for Hulk, or maybe just because he's a government official, he's just working with Tony Stark. And, like, they're, of course, going to mention Hulk, but...
Right.
You know, I could see Hulk not being... And I'm okay with that, because this movie is... I don't mind a lot of characters, but this movie's getting pretty full.
Oh, and I should mention, Thunderbolt Ross opens up the door for the return of the Abomination.
Mm-hmm. That would be awesome. And this is probably not going to happen anytime soon, but in some iterations of the comics, I think I don't know if it's the original origin, but Thunderbolt Ross becomes Red Hulk. He is Red Hulk in most of the comic books. So
yeah,
that's a way to segue that in if they really wanted to go that route. Maybe they find, you know, maybe he has some of the gamma radiation still, and he's like, all right, if no one else is gonna take down the Hulk, I'll do it myself, you know, and turns himself into Red Hulk. I don't know. That's just crazy talk, but maybe it'll happen down the line. So what do you think Black Panther's role is going to be in Civil War? Because
he's pissed off about what happened in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, with the vibranium and Wakanda.
Wakanda.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's upset. So he's definitely going in there, and you know he's probably going to confront some of the Avengers and be like, "What are you guys doing?
Oh yeah.
Aren't you guys supposed to, you know, protect and serve, so to speak? Instead, you're causing all this damage to my home, to New York, to Slovakia.
Yeah, the
yeah.
surgery in Age of Ultron.
What's that name? So yeah, he's gonna go in there with some motivation, some fire behind him.
I think we might see T'Challa, who is Black Panther. We might see him like before we see the Black Panther suit, but I think the first time we see the Black Panther suit, he's gonna be fighting an Avenger. That's what I think.
Yeah,
So,
I could definitely see that.
Isn't there a rumor that he has a big fight scene with Hawkeye? Did you hear that?
A rumor, yeah, but I don't know because there's no further speculation or rumor behind it.
There was no like one thing set photos or anything.
Out,
it was just a random. That would be pretty cool because even though if it really came down to it, I think Black Panther would handle Hawkeye, but I could see Hawkeye keeping up with him for a while with his bows and stuff. I could see it. So yeah, so are you excited for Ant-Man, or how have your expectations gone over the past
I
few
recently
months?
wrote a blog post about the fan excitement totally changing since the initial teaser trailer for Ant-Man, where people were like, I don't know, I think this might be Marvel's first flop. And since then, we've had a couple TV spots and another kick-ass trailer that it played at the showing for Age of Ultron. I think every showing that I went to, it played. And the audience reaction was excitement. They were laughing. It was overall positive. For me, I'm very much excited for this. I want to see Paul Rudd do something we haven't really seen him do, be in an action film, a Marvel film. I thought his casting as Scott Lang was excellent. I can't wait to see, what's his name? Corey Stoll from House of Cards. Yeah, I like him as an actor. Michael Douglas. I'm excited for this because this is going to be the bridge between Age of Ultron and Civil War. I want to know what happens in this film that sets up Civil War. And I'm arguably just as excited for the post-credits scene and the mid-credits teaser, because this is Marvel's opportunity to tease Spider-Man and at the same time tease Civil War.
Yeah, I agree. I would love there to be a Spider-Man end credit scene, but I kind of
or a reference
feel like
at least.
I think there's going to be references. I think we're going to hear about Oscorp in Ant-Man, but I feel like we're more likely going to get a Black Panther after credit scene. I could see that.
Right.
But although I love
because we
Spider-Man
still haven't.
Yeah. I just want to make a correction on something we said earlier. We called the Hulkbuster suit Vanessa. It's actually Veronica. So
Veronica.
We were wrong. Just want to clear that up. So one more thing regarding the MCU. So I finished Daredevil a couple weeks ago, and it was a great show. It is a great show. And I'm very much looking forward to the other Netflix shows. We have AKA Jessica Jones starring Kristen Ritter, I believe later this year or maybe early 2016. I'm not sure. And then we get a Luke Cage and Iron Fist series, all leading up to a Defenders series, which will be a team up of those 4 characters. Do you believe eventually we'll see these characters in the MCU movies? And if so, how long do you think that's going to take?
To answer your first question, yes.
Yeah, I think they're going to be. That some people are like, no, they're not. That's stupid. They're going to be eventually.
We're not going to see the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the MCU films, but it's a different situation for the Netflix series.
These characters are more cinematic.
And the studio is not holding back and making references to the MCU and
in the shows, yeah.
And the motion poster for Daredevil we saw the
Avengers Tower is in the background, and
several references.
We're still in spoilers talk for Daredevil. If you haven't seen it, if you are still waiting to finish Daredevil, just skip ahead a couple minutes starting now. So in Daredevil, there's a lot of references to the MCU. I've heard some people say that, they left it open so that Daredevil doesn't have to be, it's not directly connected to the MCU, and I think that's bull crap. I believe it's for sure 100% guaranteed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really do think so. And the way they reference that, there's a lot of newspaper clippings in the show. One of the characters, I forget his name. He's the reporter. I forget his name, but he's doing research, and in the back in his office, you see newspaper clippings with like the Hulk in it, and with the Chitauri whale, whatever you call it. There's newspaper clippings of that, and one of the bad guys in the show even references the magic hammer and iron suit. So there's no way this is not in the MCU, especially with the Avengers Tower in the background. So
there's also reports that actor Charlie Cox, who plays Daredevil, has signed a one-picture deal with his Netflix
I heard
contract.
that. See, I'm hopeful to see him as soon as Civil War, because Civil War, there's going to be lawyers involved. Why not
lawyers
have your established lawyer character in Daredevil? I don't want to see Daredevil suit up and fight in Civil War. That would be cool, honestly, but I just want to see him as a lawyer, because he's not going toe to toe. He's not going to be able to fight Captain America or Iron Man, or
maybe Hawkeye.
He could fight Hawkeye or Black Widow. I could see that.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be able to mess with these gods per se, lower G. So
will we see Wilson Fisk, Kingpin?
Oh my goodness!
In any of the Spider-Man films?
That's because, all right. So I would love that, because in the comics, Spider-Man, so Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, is a Daredevil villain. But I'm not a comic book expert. But as far as I know, when Kingpin is not fighting Daredevil, the other hero that he most interacts with is Spider-Man.
Right.
I would love that, but he wouldn't be like fighting Spider-Man, because Spider-Man would whoop his ass. There's no
yeah.
But I could see him as a player. Maybe he hires somebody to go hunt down Spider-Man. So he could be involved somehow. Maybe he's working with Norman Osborn. I could see that. That would be pretty cool. And you never know. Maybe Wilson Fisk has a beef with Spider-Man, and because they're all in New York, Hell's Kitchen is in New York,
right?
So I could see that. That would be really cool, actually. So yeah, that's kind of where we think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up regarding the MCU?
Rapper T.I. has a role in Ant-Man.
That's
curious
pretty
about
cool.
that.
That's really cool, because I recently saw T.I. in, it was Get Hard, right?
Get Hard, yeah.
He was awesome in that. He was funny. I think he'll have kind of a comedic role. What is he, Paul Rudd's friend in the movie?
From what he said, he's a superhero's homeboy.
Yeah, I could see them in
and there's only 2 superheroes in Ant-Man. Well,
yeah, he's more likely going to be Paul Rudd's friend. They're around the same age.
You don't think it's going to be Michael Douglas? You don't think T.I. hanging out with Michael Douglas?
Maybe he's like his tech guy or something. Maybe they're flipping this on us, and T.I.'s like a nerdy scientist. That would be cool. Something like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad to see Marvel adding different type of talents to their casting. So
right,
that's pretty awesome. So that's kind of it for our MCU discussion. If you guys have any comments or questions regarding anything that we discussed, or if you agree with us or disagree with us, please let us know in the comment section. We love a healthy debate. We love to hear what you guys would think. So we'll go into our last segment for this episode. Just some of the news topics going around the movie world these last couple weeks or so. Gio is our movie news guru. He's gonna bring up a couple questions, and we're gonna talk about them before we close out. So, Gio, you got something for me?
Yes. So, according to The Wrap, Dwayne Johnson is in negotiations to star and produce in a remake of the '86 cult classic film Big Trouble in Little China. Have you seen that movie?
I have not. I know of it. I know it was pretty popular back in its time, and I'm sure as a kid it was on TV one time, but I've never thoroughly sat down and watched it, no. But I know of the film.
Right. Okay, so the project, the remake, is under the care of X-Men First Class writers Ashley Miller and Zach Stentz.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they'll be writing the script. And Johnson, he's a huge fan of the original film, which starred Kurt Russell. So chances are he's going to sign on and produce and star in this. I'm willing to bet on that. So for those of you who haven't seen Big Trouble in Little China, basically it stars Kurt Russell as a truck driver named Jack Burton. He arrives in Chinatown, San Francisco, with his Chinese friend to pick up the Chinese friend's fiance. However, she gets kidnapped by a Chinese street gang upon arrival, and Kurt Russell, Jack, and his Chinese friend Wang chase the group, and they soon learn that this ain't no regular Chinese gang, and they work for a powerful evil sorcerer guy, kind of like Shang Tsung almost, you know.
So he has like superhuman abilities,
like,
or like
mystical,
dark magic.
Yeah,
type?
dark magic. Kind
so
of
this
stuff.
isn't just like a human based film. It has fantastical supernatural elements.
Right.
Oh wow,
Sci-fi,
that's cool. I did not know that.
So it's like
awesome.
It's like a sci-fi martial arts kind of film.
Awesome.
And so basically they try to rescue the Chinese guy's friend's fiance, and it's just, you know, Kurt Russell giving one of his best performances, in my opinion, in a role where he thinks he's being the macho tough man guy, but he's really not saving the day. You know, he goes into every battle, you know, confident, and walks out.
Well, I could see The Rock doing that, except he actually has the right to feel that confident. But if he runs into a sorcerer, he doesn't have a chance.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome. You would please definitely check out the film if you haven't seen it, guys.
I want to watch the original now.
That
I didn't know. I thought it was just gonna be like a fighting action movie, but hearing that sorcerer thing, that makes me want to watch it.
Right. Yeah. Definitely an exciting project, one to look forward to in the next several years. So next one, let's see. We got our first photo of Andy Serkis in the mocap suit for Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Wow, you had to bring this up, huh?
Right. Oh, we got to bring up Star Wars. We got to talk Star Wars. Come on, we got to do it for the fans. So, Andy Serkis will be playing a character named Supreme Leader Snoke. And the photo is just him giving us his death stare while he's in this mocap suit. That's about it. We don't know if he's going to be on the Resistance or if he's going to be on the side of the First Order. But when you hear a name, Supreme Leader Snoke, and you look at that picture, it's safe to say he's going to be a part of the First Order.
Yeah, I think he's a bad guy, for lack of a better term. Supreme Leader Snoke. That's an interesting name. I listen to Christian Harloff a lot, the guy who runs Schmoes Know, and he does a Star Wars podcast called AMC Jedi Council for AMC Movie Talk, and he said, so he's a huge Star Wars fan, like the biggest Star Wars fan that I follow, and his speculation is that he thinks that Supreme Leader Snoke is just a cover-up name, and that Andy Serkis' character is really a Sith Lord by the name of Darth Plagueis. And I don't know much about Darth Plagueis. His story has been elaborated on in some of the Star Wars books that are no longer canon, but he is referred to in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Palpatine mentions him to Anakin, saying, "Have you heard the legend of Darth Plagueis?" And he says he was able to manipulate the midichlorians to create life and keep people from dying. So that's very interesting, because I think it's very possible that Andy Serkis' character is not who he seems on the surface. Just like Palpatine in the first Star Wars Episode 1, you don't know he's a Sith Lord at first, and his true identity unravels throughout the trilogy. So I think it'll be something like that, and I do think he's a bad guy.
I would actually like to see Andy Serkis play a Sith, a Darth. I think that would be cool. Although, I mean, it would seem kind of repetitive.
Like,
correct me if I'm wrong. Like, you have Chancellor Palpatine, who ends up being the Sith Lord. If they fall for that twice in the span of 50 years or so, it's like
I see what
you
you're
deserve to
saying.
be taken over.
I don't think it's gonna be like exactly like it was in the prequels, but I don't think he's trying to fool anyone. I just think he's trying to cover up, because in that same scene when Palpatine tells Anakin about Darth Plagueis, he also said that Darth Plagueis is dead. So who knows? Darth Plagueis could be so powerful he's still alive, and it's probably not even Darth Plagueis. I'm just got listening to Christian Harloff too much.
Right.
So, but yeah, regardless, I'm excited that Andy Serkis is in Star Wars. He's the best motion capture out there, motion capture performer out there, and I'm really excited to see what his role in The Force Awakens is going to be, and we'll find out in December later this year.
December 18th, 2015.
Yep, cannot wait. That's gonna do it for us, guys. We are the MTE Movie Podcast. MTE is short for Movie Talk Express, if you guys didn't know. And we'd love to thank you for listening to us for our second episode. And we just want to let you guys know that we appreciate all you followers, viewers, listeners on our website, on our blog. For those of you who don't know, you can find our blog on movietalkexpress.wordpress.com, on Facebook at Movie Talk Express, on Twitter at Movie Talk EX, and you can find me on Twitter at Jake Ryan Bartley, JakeRyanBartley. Gio, where can they find you at on the internet?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Giorgio Ramos 24, Giorgio Ramos 24, and on Facebook at Giorgio Ramos. Thanks so much for listening, guys.
Yeah, thanks again, and I can't stress this enough. I just hope you guys, realize we're just starting out as podcasters. We're learning it as we go. We're studying the game, trying to get better. So, hope you all can be patient with us and grow with us as we learn. So, yeah, you can catch us next week on our podcast where we're going to discuss the summer movies coming up and try to give our insight and what we're most excited for. So until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.